Hello again. So now we are going to start today's webinar about site fire solutions. So, well, first of all, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is David Blanco. I'm MEP engineer from the Technical Support Department of CYPE. So today I'm going to be in charge of this webinar. The idea is to have a little overview of our site fire solutions, our platform, our cloud-based platform about storing BIM projects, Open BIM projects, and explaining a little bit the workflow. If you have any questions or queries about during the webinar, I will try to answer at the end of the webinar. Maybe it's better for everyone. Or if someone is going to write on the chat the questions during the presentation, at the end, maybe I will try to answer all of them. Okay, so, well, first of all, this webinar is going to be recorded, so don't worry if anyone after the webinar wants to have the link in order to download and play the webinar calmly. Don't worry about it. Don't hesitate to contact us, our colleagues Vincent and Jean-Paul, and they will send you the link in order to download the webinar. Okay, so. Well, let's start. First of all, as the previous week, last week, we are first of all, I'm going to introduce the workflow site solutions. Well, we are a software development company specialized in different domains in building design. We are more than 35 years in the market, developing software for structural engineers, for MEP engineers, for management, for architects, etc. So. We have presence in more than 60 countries all over the world. We have more than 80,000 users, and we have sold more than 100,000 tools worldwide. So we have a huge presence in the whole planet. Okay, so in these recent years, we have been promoting this Open BIM workflow. The BIM technology, as you already know, it's the present, the past, the present, and the future of the construction sector. And we are promoting this workflow. It's open because it's based on the standards. We are based, the idea of our technology is share open formats, IFC formats, DXF, PDF, BC3, XML, etc. All standard formats, not any formats, native formats from any software developers, not from us, not from any other companies. So the idea is to guarantee the durability of the project, always to be able to have this information wherever they are, wherever this information is stored, and in your local network, in your local computers, or in the cloud-based, but always in standard formats. So with this Open BIM technology, we're always going to start from a 3D model. This 3D model is going to be generated by our tools, IFC Builder, a free modeler, or any other BIM modelers of the market, Revit, Archicad, Allplan, Bentley, MicroStation, etc., etc. And we are going to store this 3D model in order to start a BIM project in our cloud-based platform, this BIM Server.Center, we will see in a minute. And with this 3D model, we are going to communicate with all our specialized applications we develop for civil engineers, for MEP engineers, etc., for architects. And we are going to communicate this 3D model in the platform through free applications like Synchronizer. Everyone is going to be in real time in a collaborative multi-user manner. Everyone is going to be updated and linked to the physical 3D model through these different specialized applications. And with these applications, we are going to be able to generate technical documents like reports, drawings, schemes, diagrams, reports, cost estimating, codes, compliance for the different technical codes that you have to comply with. And with these technical documents, we are going to generate and consolidate the BIM model, the original physical 3D model, architectural model. We are going to consolidate this BIM model with these results, these technical documents, and these IFC results in open formats. So this is the idea of the Open BIM workflow we propose. So in order to, before starting with the workflow and with these sci-fi solutions, we're going to see the platform. This BIM Server.Center cloud-based platform. It's a free platform that you are every technical agent intervene that is going to intervene in the project, in the life cycle of the project, the promoter, the developer, the architect, the BIM manager, all the specialized engineers for the different applications or different domains of the project design is going to have the possibility to access this platform. You only have to, you can log in with your account if you have already created an account. It's only required, you can register here. So, well, first of all, the website of the BIM Server.Center platform, it's, as you can see here, you can search in Google or it directly introduce the website BIM Server.Center, okay? So you can, as I said, as I was saying, you can register here with only as required an email. So you can register an email and you enter the data and you can access. Or if I have the account, with my account, I'm going to access now. So this platform, the idea of this platform is not only focused on the store side of the BIM project design phase, in order to create BIM projects, store information, data, files, like, for example, Drive, Dropbox, etc., other applications, but also there are some other functionalities and other advantages. So you can use this platform in order to create a professional network. You can search for collaborators, for other people that are that have access in the platform. So you can search for, you can create your own professional network, your groups, your team members for the different projects you are going to design, you are going to create. Also, you can search for applications. You have a store applications part in the BIM Server, like, for example, like Google Play, like Apple Store. So you can search for applications. We have more than 150 or 200 applications for the moment, and it's going to be increased. Not only developed by us, but also developed by other software developers that everyone is going to be able to access here. So, for example, if I search by name, Sapphire, you will see some different applications for Sapphire solutions. In order for international purposes, we have Sapphire Design and Sapphire Hydraulic Systems. They are both tools. These main tools, that is what we are going to see an overview today. But also you have Sapphire FDS and FDS Viewer in order to make FDS simulations for fire dynamic simulations. Also, we have Sapphire Pressure Systems in order to comply with European code for pressure differential systems for staircases, for lobbies, etc. That's some regulations and codes that have to comply with this in some type of buildings. And other Sapphire application for particular countries, for France, for Spain, and etc. So this is our store part domain. We have also educational purposes. We have collaborations and partnerships with different institutions, universities, etc. So we have the possibility to use this platform in order for educational purposes. Also for certifications, for professional certificates like ACM or BIM managers or BREEAM lead certifications. We are increasing the number of institutions that are going to provide the people on the platforms for certifications, okay, for different purposes. We can be recommended with different projects in the platform. In order, if we are a promoter or a developer, for example, we can release or publish a new project, and we can search for people specialized in a particular structural engineer field, or in a particular MEP field, electrical or plumbing, etc. And we can search for people specialized in a particular domain. So we can be recommended as professional with our portfolio, our profile. We can be recommended as specialized people or specialized companies in a particular field. And also the main tab is the project tabs. Okay, so here, for example, I'm going to search for a particular project. For example, this Bauhaus school, for example, I'm going to open it. So this is my list of projects which I have been creating in these few years, or in which I collaborate, or I'm a team member of this particular projects. So here, this is the dashboard of the project. We can manage information like managing all the which number of people are involved in the project activity in the last few days or weeks, files shared, as you can see here, open formats always, the traceability of the project, who has changed something, in which part, where, and also in the 3D view is very important. So if I'm going to open it a little bit wider in order that you can see the 3D design. For example, this is the architectural model, but also I can activate different elements. For example, I can activate the structure. For example, I can also activate, for example, a HVAC design. Let's wait. This is depending on the size of the project, is going to take a little bit more than other things. For example, here, for example, I can activate the HVAC decking installation, for example. And also, we are going to, maybe I have chosen a project that's going to be a little bit tough to show. Okay, so the idea is to have in this platform all the files that intervene, that everyone has been designing in the project, all the MEP facilities, all the structural engineer design, all the architectural, the furniture, the ceilings, all the coverings, etc. of the building. So the idea is to have everything stored in the platform. So for example, as you can see here, this is the structural design and the architectural design, and also the HVAC design. For example, let's make transparency on the architectural design, and I can see here all the structural design with all the foundations, the piles, all the beams, the slabs, etc. Okay, of this project. And also the HVAC design, as you can see here, are the external heat pumps, for example, of this VRF installation. I'm sure if we enter here, we can see all the different internal equipments. We can consult, we can make sections here, view, rotate, insert, or consult information directly to the different elements. If I double click, for example, here, I will be able to consult the information on the platform. Okay, for example, this is a heat recovery VRV equipment with this typology, this power, etc. So this is the idea. Also, I'm going to come back here to the main tab of the project. If we access in the Files tab, we can see the warnings, the recommendations, the interoperability in the different tools. Also, the work team people that's involved in the platform, and also the files shared. Okay, as you can see, all the people that is involved with the different roles, assigned areas, and the professional profile. In the Files tab, we can consult all the BIM formats I told you about in the beginning of the workflow. For example, for the water supply installation project, here we can see the design in the 3D. For example, let's consult it. Which application has developed it? Our site plan BIM installation. For example, this is the design of our water supply installation project. And also, for example, lighting analysis. Here I can consult for site looks, the calculation annex in PDF format, not only in 3D view. I can directly here consult the reports directly in the platform. So everything is stored here and is going to be shared, and everyone who has access to the project can consult at any point the information from the different specialized agents or specialized engineers. Okay, so this is the idea of the platform. So let's start with the main purpose of our webinar today. So we are going to see the different sci-fi solution. First of all, I'm going to open. Remember, of the Open BIM technology, I need a physical 3D model. So I'm going to, I have opened in the site suite. You can You can install all the suites, all the applications of our site tools from the BIM Service Center store, or even from our website also, cyp.com. You can search for the different applications. But here, we developed so many tools that it's difficult to place every tool here. So in the Open BIM tab, I'm going to launch IFC Builder. IFC Builder is a BIM modeler. It's a free modeler. It's very simple to use, easy to use, very friendly. The GUI is very user friendly, and is going to we are going to be able to generate IFC formats in order to generate the architectural, the geometrical model in order to start the Open BIM workflow. If you work or you collaborate with people that works with Revit, ArchiCAD, Plan Bentley, etc., you don't need to start with IFC Builder. You can start with directly from Revit, from ArchiCAD, Allplan. We have tools in order to generate the IFC files directly to the platform from these other BIM modelers. So I'm going to open, for example, an example. I have here a residential building. This is the same example I used last week for the site planning solutions. This is a 3D view. I'm going to see today, as you already know, this is not the target of today to see IFC Builder, because we have also webinars in the past few weeks that we have developed. This is a residential building that we are going to use in order to communicate with the different tools. For example, if I hide the facades, I can see the inside, you can see the piles, you can see the slabs, the roofs, and the internal partitions, the slab on ground floor, etc. All the windows, doors, etc. This is the residential building. Everything, we have the templates, we have the different spaces, the group of spaces, etc. So we are going to create a new project. I could use even the project from last week, but I'm going to create a new one because there's new people today in the webinar, so maybe it's better to export and generate a new BIM project. So here I'm going to link to a BIM project to the platform. Here's my account. Okay, so very important, this is also this application, the synchronizer that you can search in the platform. This is the tool, a free application. I'm logged in with my account, and all the tools, all the projects here synchronized. So this is the tool that allows me to communicate the platform with the different tools. So I'm going to create a new project. For example, webinar site fire. Okay. Type of project is going to be, for example, other for its webinars. Visible to my contacts, for example, and open to my contacts. The view options and the management of collaboration requests. Description, residential, for example. Sorry, residential. Okay. So I accept here. I accept and create the project, and this is the 3D building I'm going to generate. I'm going to export the templates, for example, and I'm going to accept. This is going to create the BIM project in the platform and also export the 3D geometrical model to the platform. Okay, so just in a few seconds, always you will have all the information is going to be stored in the platform, in the cloud, and also in a local directory, on a local folder in your equipment, in your machine. Okay, so don't worry about it. So here in the synchronizer, for example, just in a few seconds, I should be able to see, yes, that's here. The webinar site file is already created, the BIM project, and in just in a few seconds, the software is going, the synchronizer is going to export the information to the platform. Okay, so this is going to be the architectural modeling is going to be exported to this platform. So, for example, if I go to the BIM Service Center platform, projects tab. Okay. So in webinar Sapphire, not for the moment is not exported, but now you see this is synchronizing the 3D building IFC file. Remember that we are generating IFC formats, standard formats. So just in a few seconds, it's going to be to export it. I'm going to update my Explorer, my Internet Explorer, or my Chrome, or whatever navigator you use. And here we have the 3D building. It's already exported. Okay, here is the project creation profile. the dashboard with the different elements we have in the platform. For the moment, just an IFC file, GLTF. GLTF, it's a 3D format, a standard format that is enables us to communicate with different, not only for construction sector, but also for video games and other platforms and other utilities. So in the Files tab, here we have the file, the IFC file generated by IFC Builder, myself. I'm going to be now, I played the role of BIM manager, and also all the templates, the GLTF 3D model, and another stuff that's going to be stored here. For example, in work team, I could invite a user. For example, I'm going to invite my colleague, John Paul, from the sales department. I'm going to search for him, John Paul Parnis, for example. I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to attribute different roles. You have these different 8 buttons here in order to provide the different functionalities, different permits you have for the different roles. I'm going to give him the role of editor, for example, or moderator. The difference is that he is going to be allowed to invite other people. If any one of the plans of the webinar today, after the webinar, wants to be included in the project, don't worry, don't hesitate to. At the end of the webinar, you can give us your email access or your email account from the BIM server, and we will invite you from to the project. Okay. So I'm going to, for example, John Paul is going to structural analysis and also, for example, lighting design. Okay. So this is the area that he's going to, and I'm going to giving him a message. John, let's start working, for example. Okay, and I'm going to give him as an invitation. He's going to receive in the mobile application. Remember that this BIM Service Center platform, that also we have mobile application for your tablets, for your iPads, your mobile phones. You will have the possibility to manage all the information from the platform. And the same way we are doing here in our PC, you will have the mobile application also. So he will receive an email and also a message, a notification in the mobile application, and he's going to access the project. Okay, so once we have created the project, we have exported the 3D geometrical model, and we have created the work team, the supposedly work team. We are going to start working with the different tools. So first of all, I'm going to start with Sapphire Design tool that, remember that we have here in the store applications. You can search for Sapphire solutions, and for example, Sapphire Design is here, and you can download it from the platform. You have here some videos, some little videos, some little information about the languages, the version we are today, etc. Okay, so here we are going to, I'm going to open Sapphire Design. I have it here in this shortcut. So I'm going to open it. So I'm going to create a new file, for example, Sapphire Residential Design. Okay. So I'm going to accept, and the software is going to guide us in a wizard. I'm going to select the BIM project. And remember, I'm synchronized. And now I'm in the role of the Sapphire protection engineer, or Sapphire designer. Maybe the architect or maybe the Sapphire protection engineer is going to be designing this Sapphire solution. First of all, I'm going to search the project, Webinar Sapphire. I'm going to click on Next. The software is going to read the BIM model. Okay. And I'm going to see the information. This Sapphire, meanwhile, is going to read the BIM model. This Sapphire Design application is created, allows the designer, the protection engineer, the architect, in order to configure or to design the fire protection minimum requirements or facilities, the evacuation paths of the occupancy of the building, also the compartmentation of zones, the limitation of external propagation, the access for firefighters, etc. So this is the minimum design of the fire protection project that is compliant, that we have to comply according to the regulation, because we have to comply with worldwide. No matter which regulations, you can configure the regulations of your own country or your own local codes or whatever. Okay, so here is the IFC filer initiator, the geometrical model. I'm going to activate the libraries. These libraries, this is the folder I use with the libraries because I have been working with many projects. So I have libraries for equipment, I have libraries for typologies of zones, typologies of rooms, spaces, etc. So once you are working with the different site tools, you will have the possibility to create your own libraries of elements. So this is going to speed up a little bit the process of reading the BIM model. So I'm going to read all the floors, all the room types, space types of the building. I'm going to finish the reading of the BIM model. Remember that we are reading IFC files. So now we are going to, we accept the information of the importing results, and we are going to start, the software is going to launch the GUI environment, the interface of the software. So this is the GUI environment. We have the 3D BIM model here. And also we have here on the left the different floor plans with the different templates activate. I can activate or deactivate wherever point we want to work with the different floors. And also on the right, we have the different distribution. In this case, we are going to, we only need the room, the space types, all the floors on the room types, and the rooms, the design of the architectural rooms of the building, the distribution, okay? So here we have different tabs, different parts, the project tab, compartmentation, evacuation, protection installations, CNIS, outdoor preparation, accessibility. So first of all, we are going to general options, and here's where everyone is going to configure their own codes, their own technical codes. So I can enter the different elements, configuration of the building, which checks and where I have to comply with if I optional. For example, for adjustment, I want to comply for firefighter intervention or not, occupant evacuation, project installations, and fire resistance. Everything is going to be the possibility to introduce manually. So you can simulate, you can even create your own equipment catalog from any vendors or any manufacturers from all over the world. You can create your own equipment, your own codes, your own checks for the different elements, the different zones. You can create your own checks. For example, you're complying with a particular regulations. If your zones or your sectors, fire sectors, you have to comply with indoor compartmentation, and you can activate here and establish the different indoor compartmentation if it's required by volume, by surface area, by evacuation height, or whatever you want to comply with, you can activate here. Okay, you can simulate whatever regulations you have to comply. In order to speed up a little bit the process, I'm going to read, for example, I have to go this residential building or this typology of building. I have done it before. For example, I can import from my library or even from a particular regulations code. For the moment, we have the French codes and the Moroccan codes. This is some partners, some collaboration we have with the particular institutions from the Moroccan institutions and the French institutions. In the future, we have, if there is a huge demand for any particular or a demand for any particular extra codes, we will have more flags and more codes here. But I insist that you can simulate wherever regulations you have to comply. So residential building, for example, I have imported here, for example, this is extracted from the Moroccan code, for example, and here we have the different, for example, this is the fire resistance requirement for the building. Also, we have different zones, for example, for the dwellings, for the different residential rooms, and for the parking lot, for the garage, okay? So this is the staircases, the different staircases that are included in the Moroccan code, the lift, elevators, the different lobbies or vestibules that you have to simulate here, evacuation paths, routes, etc. So once I have here, for example, the typologies of rooms, for dwellings and the nil occupation for, okay, so I have included here. So I'm going to deactivate for the moment, the templates, okay? So I'm going to start, there are, obviously there are errors because we haven't completed the definition of the project. So we have to complete the sectors, the different lifts, etc. So I'm going to start. The use units are already imported from the BIM model, from the IFC Builder group of spaces. So I have all the dwellings already assigned, but I have to comply with the different zones. So I'm going to go to zones. Here we have, for example, sector zone 1 for the different residential parts. For example, again, zone 1 with this attribution, all of the data you have to see with this log. If it's unlocked, it's going to be automatically detected by the software. So I'm going to create this one, and also the garage or the parking lot, if you prefer, parking lot. Okay, so this is the parking lot. Okay, I'm going to change the color. Okay, this is the zones. Stairs, I'm going to create also a stair 1, for example, descending, and this, for example, this typology according to the regulations of the Moroccan code. Okay, remember, this is what we are going is creating the different zones, stairs, lifts, special safe zones that we have in this building. For example, safe zones, SAS, what is called in the Moroccan code. And finally, for example, the elevator. In the general options, we have to create a new elevator, for example, elevator 1 or elevator in general. Okay. And now we have to comply. We can create an elevator or lift 1 here. Okay. So this is it. Once we have created more or less the different zones, stairs, and safe zones, etc., we can assign the different elements. Assign to spaces. I'm going to assign the use units are already assigned. In zones, I'm going to assign the parking lot. First of all, for example, all of these elements is going to be attributed to the parking. Okay, this is already attributed or assigned. I'm going to do the same thing with the zone 1, the main zone of the building. This is the residential purposes. Okay, so I'm going to attribute everything here. Floor 1, I'm going to do the same, and here I'm going to open a window and include everything in the different floors. Okay, floor 3, floor 4, and floor 5. Perfect. Okay, so what else do we have to do? For example, this lobby, this is what we are going to separate the sector or the zone from the garage or the parking lot to the residential sector. So I'm going to attribute or assign the safe zone for SAS for this lobby. Okay. Also, the lift. A lift is going to be assigned here in the elevator lift 1 to this point. Okay, let's go do the same to the floor 1, to the floor 2, floor 3, floor 4, and finally floor 5. Voila. And what else do we have to do? It's assign the elements to the stairs. The stair 1, this is the stair here, also floor 4. Remember, as you can see, it's very simple. Maybe depending on the size of the building, you will have to take some time in order to assign all the elements, but it's very simple. Floor 1, floor 2, it's already done, and finally ground floor. Okay, so more or less it's done, all the attribution of the compartmentation, more or less. What else can we do? For example, let's introduce the different evacuation routes, for example, for the garage. Evacuation routes, I'm going to, as you can see here, all these elements, all these cases are going to be automatically taken from the software. This is a type of corridor evacuation route for this characteristic, this parameter from the Moroccan code. I'm going to accept here, and for example, I'm going to start from this point. I can activate the ortho mode if I want to be more precise. Just to this point, for example, and from this point, just to here, up to here, for example. And this point, I'm going to design over here. I'm going to deactivate the ortho mode, just up to the lobby. And I continue here through the door and finally I'm going to outside the door. Okay, this is the evacuation route. Also for the garage, for the parking lot, through the lobby and to the outdoors, to the external door of the building. What else? Here in the corridor, also here we have the start of the staircase. So I can start here and make the jump. I'm going to join all the evacuation route from the staircase to the evacuation route as come from the garage, the parking lot, from the corridor. Okay. I'm going to do the same for the different floors. Floor 1, for example, is not obviously in a dwelling house in a block of dwellings, we don't have to draw all the evacuation routes inside the dwellings. It's just in the corridor, for example, or in the staircase. Okay, so I'm going to finish here. I'm going to do the same in the floor 2, for example, just up to here. Also floor 3. Okay, more or less, floor 4. Okay, in the floor 5 is not necessary because this is a duplex. From these dwellings are duplex. We have an inside staircase in the room, so we are not going to make the evacuation through the corridor. Okay, so let's come back to the ground floor. What else do we have to do? It's provide, well, let's start with the floor 4. Provide all the occupancy of the different dwellings to the evacuation routes. For example, we have these evacuation origins. So I can start here and provide the number of people here, and from this side to this route. I'm going to do the same from the different elements, this point to this point. Floor 2, the same thing. What I'm doing is assigning the evacuation occupancy from the different dwellings to the evacuation routes on the corridor and the common zones. Floor 1. And finally, in the ground floor, I'm going to also here, well, in this case, it's not necessary really, but because the number of people is 0. So I'm going to save changes. What else I do? If I at any point, once we have done at least the minimal introduction, I can just calculate update results. We can make an automatic design for the evacuation routes, evacuation paths, etc., or update results in order to check to verify if it complies with the technical codes I'm simulating or I'm complying with here or not. For example, I'm going to automatic design. There is some mistake I have done. For example, okay. What is left here is I forgot to check just the rooms of the different use units. This is something I forgot. Just edit here because this is coming from the BIM model from my XC Builder. All the rooms of the different dwellings, it's already well attributed or assigned to the different use units. I'm going to edit and just confirm it. Voila, this is okay. So now I'm going to automatic design. There is some mistakes here, general mistakes, and some particular mistakes here. For example, okay, there are some general mistakes of the building and some particular mistakes in the different floors. What it's telling us the software is that in this design or according to these codes, for example, for this typology of a staircase, this regulation doesn't allow us to communicate direct the dwellings through the staircase without a common zone for an intermediate zone. So this is something I should redefine in an architectural design. For example, introduce here an intermediate space, a common zone, and afterwards through a door and an internal partition communicate with the staircase. This is something very typical from the different codes of different countries. But in this case, in order to simplify, let's imagine that in this case, for the typology or for this code, the code allows us to communicate directly the dwellings through the corridor and the staircase. So I'm going to general options. I'm going to zones here, and I'm going to edit here. And in this case, Well, sorry, this is not here. This is in the staircase. I'm going to edit here. Yes, direct communication with use unit. This is, for example, this is something. Let's imagine this is the code. It allows us to have this possibility, so I can modify and establish a direct communication with use unit. Even I hear if, for example, for Spanish regulations or other country, and I can introduce here a test description of my codes and also a title for this particular check of the code. Okay, as is here, for example, file smoke control according to the article 3.72.3 of the Moroccan code. It's something that is established here from this test description. Okay, so if I establish this and I automatic design again, all of the particular checks here have disappeared. Okay, so this is something that is left is the general checks for the different for the different sectors. So we have the fire extinguishers. For example, fire extinguishers must be installed in the zone. So fire extinguishers, here I have protection installations. So I have fire extinguishers. We have different typologies. Remember that you can control the general options, fire equipment catalogs. This is something for the Moroccan codes. I edit here and I can modify the symbol, or I can edit different element things. For example, this is ABC chemical powder, portable with this effectiveness. This is something I have imported from the Moroccan code. Okay. So I'm going to introduce a fire extinguisher here with this height, for example, one in the garage, and I'm going to provide, well, I can rotate if I want, sorry. For example, another one here, another one in each floor, for example. Let's imagine one over here, another one in floor 2. This is not mandatory, but I'm going to provide one in each floor. This is something I can control. If I want to provide these checks in the whole zone or in each floor group of the building. So if I update results of automatic design, this check that wasn't compliant, it's already solved. Fire hose reels in the parking lot. So in the ground floor, according to this regulation, if I go to the general options, parking lot, fire hose reels are mandatory, as I'm seeing here, without any particular extra check, because maybe, for example, some codes force us to provide a fire hose reel installation in a parking lot according to the surface area for a parking lot plus than 500 square meter, for example, in order to say something. Okay. So in this case, it's mandatory to provide these fire hose reel elements. I'm going to provide one over here, okay? And well, I could provide another one, sorry, at this point, for example, over here, okay? So this is it. This is for the garage. If I up the results, just have disappeared. Whereas a smoke control system must be installed and in the staircase and also in the parking lot. So in the parking lot, if I edit here, the parking lot, this is the information, and we have the obligation to install a smoke control system. Just in order to provide with the different site fire tools, a smoke control system here. I can activate here and also in the corridor, in the different floors. A smoke control system in the different floors. Floor 3, and finally floor 4. Well, also in floor 5, if you want, I can install a control system. If I edit, I calculate, or at the results, the project has been analyzed correct. So this is the idea of the process, very simple and maybe unreal, maybe. It's just in order you to know how, an overview, how to design the project compliance for fire protection according to a particular code. Here you can provide, for example, alarm buttons, you can provide alarm systems, detectors, etc. For example, some detectors here. I can provide different detectors, okay, according in my garage, my parking lot, or in my staircases. Also, the CNITs, the auto propagation, you have to comply with the maneuver space or the access road for the different elements. So this is the idea. If I go to now, what results can we obtain here? First of all, the project reports, the checks. Here we have some particular checks. This is something, for example, I have to already define for the lobby. Maybe the surface, the minimum surface that doesn't comply. Maybe I have to redefine the architectural design. Okay, all the requirements according to these regulations. Also, this is like a summary of checks and the project, the results. Here I can provide the zone, safe zones, the stairs and elevators, for example. All the zones, which elements or which requirements according to the regulation I have to comply with. Extinctors, extinguishers, the height installation, number of floors, groups, the parking lot, etc. All according to all the different regulations. Okay. One interesting thing I haven't said, it's all of the reports of the site tools. You can print it in paper and PDF. You can also export in different formats. This is really, really interesting in PDF format, docx, txt, HTML, RTF, etc. And also you can share via PDF with a colleague or a collaborator of the team member of the project. So you can share it via internet. Okay. So this is always every report you could also manage here. And also the material list or the material schedule here. This is really interesting also. Well, in this case, maybe it's not very interesting because it's simple in order to, because imagine a huge building with a huge number of blocks, floors, groups, and number of rooms that you have to provide all the elements, extinguishers, detection systems, all the quantities here. You have also in a report here. Also, you could export in a BC3 format. This is a standard format for quantities in order to export to the BIM project. So once I have complied with this project, I could export to the results to the fire design. For example, the quantities, the reports to the project. If I export here, I can export the results. And just in a few seconds, the synchronizer is going to export the results for the fire safety system, the fire protection design verifications or checks into the project. If I go to the BIM Service Center project, remember that everything is interconnected. In the webinar site fire project, apart from the geometrical model, also we have this, I have a notification here. My colleague John Paul has accepted the invitation to the team members. And here in the work team, we are two of us, myself and John Paul. Well, in files tab, we have this 3D building IFC file. This is the geometrical model, and also the design of the fire system. We have the checks PDF, the project tab, the PDF, and the quantities in the result, and the GLTF. Here we have the different results we have been in the platform. Here I can print it, I can download, I can wherever. Okay. Also in the GLTF design, if I go to the dashboard, and here I'm going to open a little bit wider the 3D design. I can also, apart from the geometrical model, I can activate and make it transparent the design, and I could activate here the design. Okay, this is all the design of the fire safety installation. If I go inside the building, I could also click on the elements fire hose reel with these elements, with this information. Also the extinguisher. If I double click here, the fire extinguisher with all this information obtained from the site fire design tool. Also the smoke detection system here and the different elements I have in the different floors. Okay, this is very cool and very interesting to have it in the platform. Okay. So what else? Let's come back to the site fire workflow. So we have seen the way to create a BIM project. the site-fire safety minimum requirements according to this regulation. We have simulate. So now, what else can we do? For example, let's do a site-fire hydraulic design for the sprinklers design and also the fire hose reel design of this building. For example, I could also search for this tool in the store application, remember, in the BIM server center. Sorry, site-fire. Remember, site-fire hydraulic system. This is the tool meant to design and make hydraulic network for the sprinklers and the fire hose reels of this building design. We could access here to different tabs, information, version, etc. I could also download and install from the BIM server, or in the suite, in the MEP tab, I have site-fire hydraulic systems. So I'm going to launch it and make a hydraulic system design. This tool is very cool, and it's based on the EPANET 2 engine. This is EPANET 2 engine for hydraulic networks. It's very powerful. It's designed by the American institutions, and it's very powerful in order to make hydraulic networks according to the different loss of pressure according to different criteria for Hayes and Williams or Darcy Baseback according to different criteria. And it's inside the Open BIM workflow. We could make a design of fire hose reel design or a sprinkler design, or both of them. So I'm going to get a new project. Let's site-fire hydraulic design, okay, or site-fire hydraulic residential, for example. Okay, so I'm going to create a new building. This, for example, this tool, it's you could also create a simple design with templates, DXF or DWG templates. If imagine that at some point or someday you have to make a quick design of a sprinkler design network, and you don't have a BIM model, you could click no here, and you could do a quick design without a BIM model, without templates, and you could make a hydraulic network without templates, without BIM model. It's possible, but normally the most advantages you will find in our Open BIM design with an architectural 3D model. Let's select the project. Remember, this is the same process we have done it before with the site-fire design. I'm going to select the project, webinar site-fire. Let's click on next. The software is going to read the BIM model. Okay, this is the 3D model, architectural model. And also we have, apart from the, remember the difference with as for the previous design we have done in site-fire design. Here we have the initiator, this IFC builder. I insist we could have done it with Revit, ArchiCAD, Allplan, Bentley, SketchUp, etc. Every BIM models that you could imagine that it's possible to generate an IFC file. We could use it in order to start this Open BIM workflow. Also, in this case, I'm in the role of the site-fire protection engineer, and in this case, I only it's only required for me, or what I only needed. It's an Open BIM file, an IFC file of the architectural modeling, but I don't mind if it's generated by Revit or by IFC Builder or by ArchiCAD or etc. So what I need is an IFC file. Also, additionally, I'm going to read the site-fire design for the site-fire safety system, and I'm going to also establish my typologies libraries folder in my local repository, and I'm going to finish. So let's read all the floors and groups of the building, and also all the room space types of the building, and let's click on finish. So this is the information, the import results, files, documents, floors, and spaces. And we are going to click on the accept the tab, and let's start with the interface of this tool. So as you can see, it's very similar. This site-fire hydraulic system is very similar in the interface from site-fire design. We have the BIM model here. We have all the floors and groups of the building here on the left, and on the right we have the building itself with the different distribution of the architecture elements, the different in this case the different rooms, spaces in each floor. So I can deactivate if I want, for example, all the templates if they are bothering me a little bit, so I can deactivate. For example, another thing that you could realize is that we have imported also the fire hose reels from the fire safety design. The idea is to guarantee the interoperability, the interchange of information between the tools, site fire design and site fire hydraulic system. Okay, so well, this stuff, well, we have here in the main tab of the building, the toolbar, you have the project tab, all the hydraulic analysis elements, sprinklers, the different elements in order to provide the different distribution of the sprinklers, fire hose reels, supply connections in order to start from a supply connection, a tank or a pump. Also the piping here, the fastening for hangers and seismic bracing if you want to provide the seismic design. Also for providing slopes or other planes of drawing planes of reference. If you want, for example, if you are going to provide a warehouse or industrial building with a slope roof, you can also design the sprinklers in these slope planes. Okay, this is possible with the software. Also the analysis tab and the edit tools elements. So first of all, it's general options. The same thing we have commented before with the site fire design. Every user here can simulate or introduce the parameters of any regulations all over the world. So I could introduce all the parameters, all the data of different codes, different regulations. So I can manually introduce the elements, the type of hazard, the type of buildings. For example, the design options. If I want to calculate with H and Williams, let's see baseback. The pressure drops criteria, the piping, if I want to establish a maximum velocity or not. All the libraries of rooms, of equipment, sprinklers, piping, fire hose reels, hangers, etc. All of these elements here. But also we have three codes by default that you could both flags are very common worldwide. This is the European code, the EN 12845 from the year 2016, and also we have the NFPA 13 codes. So you have the possibility to import both codes. Also we have Singaporean codes for the CP52 for the calculation for sprinklers, but we have these three flags by default. So in this case, for example, I'm going to import the NFPA 13 code by default. In this case, we have all of these type of hazards, type of buildings according to the NFPA 13 codes. For example, here I can edit and I can solve all these sprinkler and fire hose reels verifications or compliance according to these codes. Even I can edit and modify wherever I want on these verifications or checks according to the code. The minimum duration of water supply, the maximum operation area, etc., according to the different hazards. Okay, everything is customizable by the user. What else? For example, the hangers, I'm going to provide a hanger catalog. This is a loop hanger by default. Here you can consult. This is the aspect of the hanger by default we have. You can also create your own hangers if you want. Also the sprinkler type. Let's create a sprinkler. For example, for the sprinkler stack, by default we have two typologies by default: dependent sprinkler, and the operator sprinkler. For example, let's import a dependent sprinkler. In this example, in a very simple example, I'm going to use this one. But here you could go to residential, standard sprinkler sidewall, or ESFR sprinkler, for example, and you could modify the different factors or different parameters. For the piping, we have by default these catalogs. This, for example, steel, copper, stainless steel, or this aquatherm pipe for polypropylene or well, plastic pipe for this manufacturer, this vendor, but you could also create your own pipe catalogs if you want. Also, the files are real. I have this possibility here. I can edit and establish the different criteria for this file was real. Also, the accessories. We have the also different accessories for the piping in order for elbows, T's, and crosses, different by default. You could also edit and modify the loss coefficient for the different calculations. This is very important and very cool. This is some novelty we have developed recently, very recently, and this is very, very highly demanded by our users, and we have already included in the software. So you have the accessories, everything is going to be taken into consideration in the calculation of losses, pressure losses, and also in the quantities. Here are all the elements, all the criteria for accessory measurements or quantities in the calculations. So once we have provided the elements, I'm going to make the design. So for example, let's start with a tank. We could start with a supply connection or a tank. Let's start with a tank. Here, everything, as you can see here, it's all of these elements is the same thing as sci-fi design. Everything is going to be automatic taken by the software. If you want to force it or block it because you want to provide something particular, you can block it if you want. I'm going to provide the tank here, over here. Also the pump. Here, for example, flow pressure curve. You could create, according to EPANET functionalities, by midpoint or by points, you could create your own pressure groups or import it from a particular element here. For these pressure groups predefined, I'm going to provide this particular here. I'm going to connect now to branch the horizontal piping. For example, let's do 3 inches in a steel, for example, and I'm going to connect this tank with this pump, and afterwards this pump to the system in the building. So for example, up to here, okay? This is the main piping distribution. So let's make, first of all, a sprinkler design. So, in order to place the sprinklers, okay, if you want, I can activate the templates here. If you want to help you in the sprinkler design, there are several manners to do it. For example, sprinkler manually, I want to provide a sprinkler particular in just one point or different points manually. Also, I can create the area or the protection area of this sprinkler manually, for example, or an automatic generation, circular or rectangular according to a particular dimensions. If I click on here, this particular protection areas. So this is the first utility. It's to place the sprinklers manually in a particular room, in a particular space or zone of our building. This is very, you can do it, but this is very tough to do it if you have a huge building or a huge number, a vast sort of rooms. It's very tough to do it manually. So we have some other tools, some cool tools. I'm going to provide this tool here. I'm going to erase what we have done here. Okay, so another tools are make some more speed up in order to speed up the process of introducing a sprinkler. Some tools like branches, how to introduce a branch with this size of the branches, 1.5 inches, for example, 2 meters in between the spaces between the sprinklers, and I could do, for example, this branch, one here, another one, for example, over here. Okay, this is a particular branch. Another one is a cross main with branches. If I go to here, I could establish the steel for the central cross main, for example, 3 inches, and 1.5, and the number of splitters on the left and on the right. If I go here, I could, for example, make a particular cross main, or even I could do it outside the building here in order to see it. You see, this is a cross main with branches. And finally, a grid system. In a grid system, we could make between cross main sensors or with branches to the left and to the cross main. For example, if I go here, 3 inches on the cross main and the rest by default. For example, if I go here, As you can see here, this is a grid system of sprinklers. So you have seen several ways in order to speed up a little bit the process of introducing the sprinklers. So I'm going to erase all of it, or I'm going to undo if you want. Okay, and I'm going to save changes. Well, okay, at this point. So the final option in order to introduce the sprinkler is an automatic generation. The software it tries to distribute more or less proportionally according to the geometrical and the surface of the room and the geometrical design of the room, the automatic generation of the sprinklers. So for example, here I could provide a central cross main or a grid system for this rectangular protection area, this 3 inches still for the cross main and the branches, yes, by default, for example. If I click on this room, or in this case, the parking lot, double click, the software tries to automatically design all the sprinklers in the room. Obviously, you have to be considered that in some cases, in according to geometrical polygons or geometrical, very strange or very more atypical geometrical design, you will have to make maybe introduce some manual sprinklers additionally in order to arrive or to place some particular sprinklers in some point that is not going to be covered by the software. So this is the design. So here, remember I have it here this pipe. So I'm going to connect or branch the piping from this point to this side, for example. Okay, so more or less, I have automatically or make this design of the parking lot. So I'm going to save changes, and here I'm going to analyze this result. Let's see what we can find. If I have the results, well, the software is going to tell us that there is some warning, some error. I have made a mistake, probably because something is not really well connected from the installation. If I accept here, well, obviously I have left the fire hose reels disconnected from this is the elements that come from fire design and are not really well connected. But apart from this, I could also consult with this tool for the sprinklers. I could also consult the geometrical design. Before doing the hydraulic analysis, if I double click with this icon, I can consult the checks from the sprinklers. If I double click here, the software is to check automatically the geometrical requirements from the codes I have been established or I have set in the general options tab of the project. So here you can consult the design of the protection, the maximum and low level protection area, and also the sprinkler layout, all the verifications of the different parameters. If I consult the checks, you will see the different points of the NFPA 13 codes I have loaded in this project. This is very important and very interesting. This is before making a hydraulic analysis. You could also provide if your design, your layout of the sprinklers is well properly designed or not. Okay, let's solve the problems of the side fire hydraulic calculations. So let's go to horizontal piping. For example, let's come back 2.5. For example, piping, and I could start from here and connect this piping over here, and also another one from, normally I should provide from, for example, from this point to the other, more or less just to this point, to the other fire hose reel. Okay, so there are the fire hose reel are already connected. I am going to update the results, and the hydraulic analysis has been carried out correctly. If I accept, all the errors from the fire hose reels have disappeared. So here I could also see some errors here in the room. I have the spaces not completely covered by the protected areas. This is something that is focused on because we have some points or some areas of the parking lot that are not ready really covered by all the sprinklers design. So this is something I can ignore or I can correct if I want. And also we have here some errors about some sprinklers, and the software is telling us that to be able to design a network correctly, the operating area must include the worst case sprinkler. This is something I forgot. Once I want to provide or to design the hydraulic analysis, I have to design the design scenario, the area of operation. This is something that FPI 13 and other codes worldwide allows the user in order to make their own criteria. So I'm going to design the area of operation. For example, let's imagine all of this group of sprinklers is going to be the minimum sprinklers open in this design hydraulic analysis. So I analyze it again, and the software is going to be analyzed. This error has disappeared because this is the worst case sprinkler of this network, and the errors have disappeared. Now, if I consult the checks with this icon, for example, if I go to this open the sprinklers, if I click on here, I will see the calculation, the hydraulic calculations, the minimum flow, the minimum operating pressure, the maximum distance. Well, the distance, the geometrical distances already before we have seen before. But the minimum flow and the operating pressure, etc., it's already taken in the consideration in the software. So if I go to the 3D view, we will be able to see this design. For example, let's make this design more transparency, and I can see here the tank, the operating pressure group, and all the piping here. For example, we could design here. Sorry, I could do, for example, some view of the sprinklers network here, for example, in the parking lot. Okay, all the sprinklers are already there, as you can see here, all the different sprinklers. Let's click on here. For example, if I go to the information tab, here I could click on a particular piping. I could consult the information here of a particular sprinkler, standard sprinkler pendant with this element. Also the accessories, elbow, all the elbows accessories of this piping. Okay, this is the information you could consult in the 3D view of the building. Okay, what else could we do here? For example, let's provide some hangers in the different tabs. For example, if I go to hangers, look hangers, let's imagine 40 millimeters hangers here. And if I provide here a hanger over there, another one over here, another one over here, this is the hanger design. For example, okay, more or less. If I analyze or update the results again, we will see some verifications about the hangers. For example, if I click here, we could consult that the pipe size is proper according to the size of the piping, but not the distance between hangers. Because we have this distance between hangers, if I consult the checks, I don't comply with the maximum distance between hangers is 4.6 meters. According to this, for example, I should provide another hanger maybe over here. If I provide another hanger here, okay, if I update results, maybe this error should disappear, as you can see here. Okay, so in the 3D view, you should be able to see all of this design of hangers. For example, let's see this design. Go here and let's consult the hangers. You can see here the information of the different hangers. Okay, this is really nice, really interesting in the 3D view in order to see. What else could we do here? For example, let's consult the reports. For example, here in reports, we could consult the project tab. Here we can the hydraulic analysis. This is the summary that we could normally consult in every software, hydraulic analysis software for sprinklers. This is the project flow test summary sheet, and also the notes and all the pipes in the software. And very interesting here, apart from seeing the detail of every flow, velocity, loss of pressure of the different piping, also the loss coefficient of the different accessories. This is very, very interesting. In every piping, you will see the loss coefficient that you are taking into consideration according to the different accessories. For example, if I go to a particular piping, if I click on here, I could see the accessory reference of the different elbows that are provided here. Also, even I could, for example, create extra accessory. For example, imagine instead of doing this, for example, I could make this design, or I could do this, for example. But sometimes, if you have in a hurry in order to make a design, you could, in order to simplify, you make this design, and afterwards you click on the type and you want to provide different accessories. For example, elbows. For 90 degrees elbows, you bring, for example, some extra, I don't know, 5 or 6 elbows for this tab in order to provide this, all this change of direction in the design. And you can also block and take into consideration in the measurements, in the quantities, and in the calculation, these extra elbows or extra accessories you are going to provide, some T's or some extra elbows. Okay, this is something you can provide. Someone in the chat also talk about the valve placement. Also, you have this possibility in order to make valves here. Remember, in the general options, we have the accessories and we have the valves. Here by default, we have the globe valves with this, for example, these 4 typologies of valves with these loss coefficients, but you can create your own with your own particular loss coefficients. And also in a particular piping, and a piece of pipe, you could edit and you can introduce your own valves if you want to provide, and you can also click and accept here. Check valves, angle valves, whatever you want to provide. The valve placement selection or placement in each piece of pipe, you can do it this way. I'm going to erase this test and show you. So let's save the changes, analyze again. Another interesting thing is also the graphical representation in 3D. We could make a graphical analysis, for example, for the pressure losses, the pressure loss. If I go to accept here, I could go to the 3D view. In 2D, you could see in this scale the range variety of values. You could see the value of the pressure losses in the different piping. And you could see how good is your design. For example, in the 3D view also, you could be able to see this design in the representation, the graphical representation for the velocity, loss of pressure, flow, etc. So you could always do this thing. Let's deactivate in order to see the conventional representation. And in this point, we have the tank an error, for example. Here, for example, we have an error according to the tank. The water supply tank is not complying the minimum requirements of the duration and the flow. So I could also design a minimum design capacity of the tank, or even I could block, for example, let's imagine I'm going to provide 100 cubic meter for the tank. If I block here and I update results, there's always going to take into consideration these ones cubic meter for these calculations. Okay, so this is for the reports. Also, for example, the quantities, the material list. You could also see all the sprinklers, piping, hangers, etc. And the drawings, for example. The drawings are really interesting because, for example, we could create a drawing selection. Let's, for example, in the scale 100, only the ground floor and not showing the DXF. All the drawings you can generate in PDF, in paper, or even in DXF or DWG if you want to export to a CAD software, your CAD software. Let's imagine here. Here, all the design, hydraulic design, all the diameters of the piping, the different sprinklers with the reference, and all the legend, the symbol legends here. and also the calculations of the sprinklers. The quantity of sprinklers with the difference reference, the type, etc. Okay, this is the calculations of the drawings. If I print here, I would export to a DWG or DXF format. Okay, so what else? In order to finish, for example, if I come back, if I go to a floor 4, let's provide a vertical, for example, a vertical pipe. If I go here, for example, horizontal piping, 3 inches, for example, here, and I'm going to, from this point to this point, and I'm going to introduce a vertical pipe in order to, sorry, this is a riser, sorry, 3 inches from the ground floor to the floor 4, for example. I'm going to provide this, the vertical. So I go to the floor 4 and I'm going to see the reference. Sorry about this, it's inside a dwelling, it's not real. Horizontal piping, for example, 3 inches, and even it's not, it's oversized. And here I'm going to provide a branch, for example, of sprinklers. And for example, this branch with these 3 sprinklers. Okay, so let's branch this horizontal piping to this point. Okay, let's see if it's some mistake. I'm going to provide a design scenario, area of operation, these 2 sprinklers, and I'm going to update results. Okay, everything is, well, here, oh, sorry, the worst case scenario, it's over here. So you should provide this area of operation. Let's analyze again. Voilà. Okay, this is the sprinklers. I can console here and console the checks of design of the projection, etc. If I go to the 3D view, we will be able to see how to make a racer. Here you will see the design of the sprinklers in this particular flow. This is how to make a racer. So it's possible to make different designs here. Okay. So this is more or less the, well, there are many other tools. For example, I'm going to export the results to the project. Meanwhile, for example, let's make the graphical of the pressure loss and the flow of the results of the sprinklers to the BIM project. Also, what else could we do with this software? Also, for example, I'm going to show you from the examples of the software. You could have always access to the samples. I wanted to show you, first of all, in the restaurant, for example, you could see the seismic design, because according to different locations all over the world, you have to provide the seismic design for the sprinklers. So here you have all the fastening, all the bracings here in the general options. You could manage all these elements, bracing pipes, catalog, all the sway braces, horizontal, longitudinal, and the fasteners. Okay, here you could create your own catalog. You can edit and modify the different elements. Okay, here. Also, with this design, you could create your areas, your zone of influence, and make your design of the different braces. For example, here we have provided in this example lateral sway brace, a longitudinal sway brace, for example. And with this analysis, obviously you have to activate here in the design code seismic analysis. Here you have to attribute, according to the NFPA 13 codes, the spectral response acceleration according to the location where you are providing this calculation. If you analyze, you will see the results in each element. For example, if I click on here, on this brace, I can console the text and the software is going to make this design. This is very cool and very important in order for different purposes for the seismic design calculations. This is something also it will be included in the project and also in the calculation of the different braces. Also, another, just in order to show you, for example, we have this warehouse design. This is for slope designs, in order to show you how to make with these elements, reference drawings, you can create slope designs. For example, in the 3D view, you will see the possibility to make a slope design of sprinklers according to the slope of the roof. All the sprinklers here, as you can see here, they are included, they are upright or pendant in this slope piece of pipe, according to taking into consideration the slopes of the roof of the building. Okay, this is something also important, and you could always do with the software. Okay, so in order to finish with this tool, I'm going to come back to the design I've made. And also I'm going to show you the building of quantities. This is also important because once we have made the design, in the bill of quantities tab, we will have the possibility to create our own material execution budget of these site fire hydraulic systems. For example, let's do it quickly. If you remember, for those of you who were here in the seminar for the site plumbing solutions, it's the same thing. For example, let's create dollars, for example, in dollars, decimals and percentages. So this is we are going to use a price bank. Here, for example, we have a Spanish price bank by default. And also, if you are already with experience of doing some project in this tool, you can create your own price bank. For example, I have created here an international price bank with some particular elements, accessories, valves, pressure groups, tanks, fire reels, hangers, etc. So if you create your own without for example, this is unjustified job items, but you could create job items with concept description, decomposition according to the material, work, labor, etc., with the different elements or items of a job particular. And here you have the price and for each element. So once you have the price bank, you could also do the mapping. In the mapping, for example, I could create an international mapping here with a void references, or a Spanish mapping, or international mapping, or your own mapping even. Once you do the mapping, you could update the quantities. For example, let's mapping with this structure, and let's introduce the site international price bank. I'm going to accept. I'm going to accept it. So, for example, these are some particular, sorry, I'm going to change the international bank. Here we have some work sections. I'm going to copy this section to the rest of the things I have here. Okay, this is the chapter or the structure of the mapping I have provided in my job design. Okay, so once I have this work section attributed to each chapter of my structure, I can provide the different codes. For example, standard sprinkler, I'm going to standard sprinkler here, and I'm going to assign. The tank, I'm going to search, for example, a tank here in my bank. A pump, also in my bank price, I'm going to assign it. For example, the different fire hose reels, I have here fire hose reels, I'm going to assign. Valves, for example, globe valve, I'm going to assign here. Also another tank here. A T, for example, it could provide a T with a particular, well, if it's not much different sizes, it doesn't matter. It's just to make an example. Elbow, for example, another one here, another T here, for example, another elbow, for example, here. I'm going to another T here, for example, in order to assign another valve here, another elbow, 45 degrees elbow here, for example, and finally a loop hanger. Loop hanger, if I remember, yeah, over here, they're 40 millimeters assigned. So once I have attributed and assigned all the codes from my price bank to the mapping of this job, I can accept here, and the job is going to update all the results. Maybe don't worry about the prices because maybe they are unreal. I have invented. They are not real, but they are in dollars, for example, and I could create, if I had all this really specified with the description of the labor, material, times, efficiency of each item, I could establish a material execution budget really, really detailed and inside the software. And this is very, very cool because in the same tool, you can obtain the installation design and the bill of quantities. So you have both things in the same tool. This is very, very cool. And it's very recent, this novelty, okay? So if I export the results here to the sports, I'm going to export again. I'm going to analyze again. Okay, this is it. I'm going to export all the results from the hydraulic design to the project. Okay, this is finished. So if I go to the project tab, projects in my BIM Service Center platform, I will see this webinar SafeFire, and I will see the results on the Files tab. I'm going to the Files tab and see the results of the high fire extinguishing installation. And here you have also everything, the PDF, the project. If I can consult here, you will see the hydraulic analysis of all the elements. Also the drawings, the DXF or GWG drawings, the pressure losses, the GLTF, and also the material list in PDF. If I go to the dashboard in the 3D view, we will see the whole job we have been designing today with the 3D geometrical modeling and also the SafeFire safety installation system and also the SafeFire extinguishing installation. Make transparency this one, and here we could consult all the design here of the different elements. As you can see here, all the SafeFire design, even with the evacuation routes here, all the design of the hydraulic system, fire hose reels, extinguishers, the tank, the pressure groups, and all the piping, all included in the same project. Okay, so this is, well, this was the main, just to end the webinar, I think I exceeded a little bit the time, but just to finish apart from the questions you have now, I'm going to show you, apart from SafeFire design and SafeFire hydraulic systems, there are the two main softwares. You have for fire dynamic simulation, you have SafeFire FDS and SafeFire FDS Viewer. This is in order to represent a fire dynamic evolution or simulation in a building. I'm going to show you a simulation already done. And also SafeFire pressure systems is in order to check the verifications of the pressure differential system, okay, for according to the European codes. And maybe anyone also can simulate any other codes, but instead in this beginning, this is the first stage, we have developed the European codes for the differential system for a staircase, a lobby, or a building in which in the codes you have to comply with this differential system. So in the SafeFire FDS, and I'm going to launch it here. Well, the SafeFire FDS, it's simply in order to make a mesh model of our BIM model. So the idea is to have import a BIM model, the same thing we have imported here in the SafeFire design and SafeFire hydraulic systems. We have all the libraries, construction elements, openings, sprinklers, and all the meshes you can provide in this software. Once you have provided the meshes and of the BIM model, you have to introduce all the data of the particles, materials, the load fires, and all the devices, all the smoke detectors, the nozzles, all the sprinklers, the heat detectors, in order to make a really good model for the fire dynamic simulations. So the idea You can simulate smoke control systems here, smoke detection systems. Also, you can simulate a ventilation system, mechanical ventilation system, in order that it's going to be how it's going to be affected to the fire dynamic simulation, the fire evolution, the evolution of the fire in a building, according to the mechanical or natural ventilation. Okay, so for example, if I open already simulation I have here with the FDS viewer, I have a project here. If I'm going to search it, this residential building, for example, with a smoke control. For example, this is the building we have been introducing with a smoke control system, and we have provided a smoke fire simulation. Here you have also some graphs you can consult according to the activation of the elements of the different devices, of the different elements for smoke control systems. Okay, the different graphs, and also the simulation. If I double click, I will launch this is, we use the FDS engine of the American institutions, NIST, and we use the smoke view for the dynamic fire simulation smoke view developed by the American institutions. So here is the model. So in here, for example, first of all, we can show here geometrical obstacles outline only, for example. For example, in this case, we have been simulating, for example, imagine this is the parking lot. We have like a car, for example, and it's going to generate in a tire a smoke fire. And we have also this ventilation system, mechanical ventilation system, and it's going to be how it's going to affect this fire evolution system. Okay. So, for example, we can load here the multi-slice, for example, for the visibility of the smoke. We could also make, for example, for the parking. Let's do this slice, and also let's load the 3D smoke for the simulation. It's going to start the smoke. Let's speed up a little bit the simulation options, max frame rate, in order to speed up a little bit the process. Okay, I don't know if you properly see the simulation. So this is an idea. Well, we could do many things here, make the visibility of the temperature of this smoke visibility, the the different flows, the free height of the evacuation routes, etc., etc. And here is the idea of, for example, the visibility of this in this plane, in which point the minimum distance of the visibility. For example, we could do the same for the temperature. If I unload and if I load multi-slice temperature for the parking, I could load from 3D smoke, for example, for the flame, the fire of this tire. And if I can options mass rate for real time, here we could also do okay, this is the temperature of this plane in the parking lot according to this fire that has been generated by this tire of the car we have been simulating. So this is the idea. You can also consult in YouTube, in our YouTube channel, you have several videos about the smoke control system, this same example according to the smoke control system, for example, and you could also, and can show you here, for example, this example is the same example, and also you have the possibility to compare, for example, the distribution of the vectors of this fire generated with this car, and compare a smoke control, a building with a smoke control and without the smoke control, how it's going to affect the temperature and the smooth visibility in the plane of the parking lot. It's obviously, you can see the difference between both temperatures and both visibilities of the smooth plane. So as for my own, I think I finished with the webinar. Sorry about it. I overstayed a little bit the time. If you have any questions or queries, I would be pleased to answer any questions you have or any queries. I insist about the thing that it's this webinar is recorded, so if anyone wants to consult the webinar calmly afterwards, you can ask for the link, and we can provide you the link, and you can download it. Any questions about the SciFire solutions, the workflow, the SciFire design, SciFire hydraulic systems? Any feedback, any comments about the webinar from anyone? No questions, no doubts. Anyway, I'm going to give you the email address of a technical support department. If you have any doubts or queries, if you are going to test the software, if you're going to, it's support@site.com. If you have any questions or queries, do not hesitate to contact us by this email or by our technical agents, John Paul or Vincent. So don't worry about it. Thank you very much for the feedback, for the presentation. I hope to be helpful to you, and I hope that it's been interesting for you also. And I'm sure that these tools, SciFire solutions, are very, very cool and very interesting for the different SciFire protection engineers, for fire protection engineers, for the different solutions, for fire safety systems provide or code compliance, for fire hydraulic systems, for smoke control system, or fire dynamic simulations, etc. So we have different tools focused on different purposes. So thank you for the comments. Well, if there are no further questions or no further queries, well, I hope to be helpful to you today. So see you next week on the next webinar we have for acoustic design for next week. So thank you very much for your attendance today, and see you next week. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.